let's see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to close our catalog, and we're going to switch back to ArcMap. So close our catalog, get it down to the desktop here, and start ArcMap. Okay. When this Getting Started window comes up, we're going to basically start with a new blank empty map. So you can click on New Maps or My Templates, select Blank Map, and hit OK. And now at the bottom here, you'll see that it has this option for the default geodatabase for this map. And now this is, we can tell ArcMap to use our new geodatabase, and that way, every time we open a window, we want to add data or save or anything, it'll go to that spot for us, and we won't have to navigate to it. So this is a good idea to do. So if we hit the Browse button here, it looks like it already should get there. If it doesn't, from the down arrow here, under Folder Connections, select our TGIS or Public Gardens. And then just click on UC Davis Arboretum database, and then hit Add. And then that pathway should be acknowledged in there. And then you can hit OK. If you have the Distributed Geodatabase toolbar open still, you can close that. And then we can start by adding a little bit of data into this. So we hit the Add Data button under Selection menu, or if it's in a different spot, it just looks like the black plus. And now when this window opens, you can see that it defaults to that folder for us, hopefully, and that the geodatabase icon here has a little house icon added to it. So this is our home geodatabase now, so it knows where to go. And if for some reason that didn't come up for you in the Look In menu, just click down under Folder Connections, find our TGIS or Public Gardens Workshop data. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so if we double-click on UC Davis Arboretum here, we can load in our area photography first. Click on that and hit Add. And then our photo should show up in ArcMap. Already got that? Okay. And now the next thing we're going to do is, if your photo comes in looking funny on your screen, you can always hit the Full Extent button, which is on the toolbar here with the zoom tools. It looks like a globe, and then it should fit perfectly on the screen. And the next thing I want to do is that we've got some data that we downloaded for area of interest, and we want to load that into our geodatabase. So essentially, somebody gave us a boundary for our data that we want to use. We want to load that in, so we're going to load that into the area interest data set. We're going to load it as the dataset extent subtype so that we know that's extent of all of our data. So there's a number of different ways that you can do this, but essentially what we're going to try to do is do it from inside of ArcMap instead of closing out ArcMap and going to our catalog. So if you don't have our catalog on the side here, on the right side, you can, up at the top, there is an icon for catalog window, and it's got a picture that kind of looks like our catalog icon on a blue square, on a white screen with a blue top there. So if we click on that, it brings up our catalog window. And now under Folder Connections, actually let's try this here. Let's see if this works. Hit this little cylinder icon with the yellow house icon here and see if this goes to our spot. And it should open right up to where our data is stored. And now you can see here in this folder we have this area of interest shapefile that was given to us by somebody else, that being me, I guess. And we're going to load that into the area of interest feature class. So hit the plus icon next to UC Davis Arboretum 0.19. Open up base map. So you see area of interest. And on area of interest, click on it and then right click and then hit load and then hit load data. And what this is going to do is give us a chance to load that shapefile into the area of interest feature class. Everybody following along on that? So this screen basically tells you what's going on with this data here and what this screen is going to do for us. So we hit the next button, and it asks first what input data we want to load into this feature class. So you hit the Browse button.
What do you need to highlight our area of interest?
Yeah. So here, I'll cancel out of this and do it again. So have you gotten this far where you can see area of interest? Okay, so you right-click on area of interest, and then select Load, and then Load Data. And that'll bring up this window. And you can see here it says this wizard will help you load data from a shapefile, which is what we have, or a few other things into the geodatabase. So we click Next on this first screen, and then for input data, hit the Browse button. And I think that if we hit this Home folder, nope, that didn't work actually, never mind that. Let's hit the down arrow here and find our TGIS Public Gardens Workshop. And then you should see area of interest.shp. You want to select that and hit Open, and then hit the Add button, and it'll add that in for us. Then we'll hit Next. And then it asks you on this screen here at the bottom if you want to load features into a subtype. And this is, if we do want to do this. So we're going to select, I want to load all features into a subtype. And then because this is our dataset extent, we want to select the dataset extent subtype. Then we'll hit Next. And now it asks you what fields from the shapefile do you want to load into which fields in the geodatabase. And because these are mostly named the same, a lot of them will already line up. But since they're not all the same, on the top one where it says matching source field and none, we want to change that to be ID field. So this is going to load the ID number for each record or row in the shapefile into the area of interest ID field in the geodatabase. And then we're going to want to do something similar for the other two that say none. It's where it says reference document URL. Click on that, and then select reference. And then for point of contact's ID, click down and select contact ID. And now it's going to load all the data from the shapefile into the geodatabase for us. All right, and then we're going to hit Next. And then it asks you, do you want to load all the data or just some of it? We're going to do all of it. And then it gives us a summary here on this last screen of what's going to happen. And then we select Finish. And it should have just done it. It should have done it pretty quick. And to see if that actually works, we'll load the area of interest feature class into ArcMap and check it out. So we can close this catalog window or just hide it by selecting the pin icon in the upper right. And then hit the Add Data button under the selection menu. And we hit the default database button here. It's the silver cylinder with the little yellow house icon. Should open right to our database. Then if we double click on base map, we'll see our area of interest feature class. Select that and hit Add. If all goes well, you should get a big polygon of who knows what color. Mine's purple. That will load in. And basically, it covers our aerial photography, so we can't see it. So what I want to do is actually now change the way that this polygon looks so that we can see the photo through it. So I'm going to, on the Layers tab here, you can select right next to Dataset Extent, select the symbol, the purple, in my case, rectangle. If you click on it, it'll let you change the way it looks. I'm just going to select the hollow one. And it has a really thin outline on it. I'm going to maybe click the up arrow on that and maybe go for 2 or 3 or something bold so that we can actually see it. And then hit OK, and now you'll see we have a nice clean bounding box all the way around our data that we can use if we get any data from other people. If maybe you get some road data from the city or something like that, you can use this this bounding box to cut that data down so that it fits nicely in there and you don't have data that you don't need. Any questions at this point?
From the pink box, where you go
Oh, to change the way it looks? You can on the table of contents, under the area interest layer, just click on the symbol next to dataset extent, and then it'll bring up the thing so you can pick what it looks like. And I just selected the hollow type, and then where it says outline width on the side, I just hit the up arrow to make that a little bit thicker so that we could see it. How we doing? You guys need any Advil or anything? I just made it hollow, Angie. Okay, so now that we have this polygon in here, let's take a quick look at the table that goes along with area interest and see what it actually loaded into there for us. So if we, on the layers thing in the table of contents, you click on area interest, right click, and hit open attribute table. And now we'll see that it's loaded all this stuff in here for us from the other data set. So we have just one shape in here, so there's just one row. It's got the ID number of 1. It's of type dataset extent. And this one has a name. It's because we're going to be working with the Ericaceae collection of plants at UC Davis. It's where I just have named this Ericaceae. And we have a start date for this is today. And then our end date is indefinite, so we're going to have this data set extent going. And really, these start dates and end dates is if we used a different type. If you had a construction project you've delineated in this area of interest, that construction project may have an end date that they've told you is supposed to happen, but so you could put that in there if you want. And now in this reference document URL, there's a hyperlink or URL in here that you can access, which I'll show you how to do in a second. And then there's some comments in here I put in, I filled in some comments about what this actually is. And that's really all we got in here. Now we have that URL field, and that happens in a lot of the feature classes in the data model. And if you want to be able to link to or use those links successfully in ArcGIS, you have to set it up first. So to do that, you can right-click on Area of Interest and hit Properties or double-click on it. And then I believe it's the Display field, Display tab at the top. Click on that, and then you see a thing here that says Support Hyperlinks using Field. Click that checkbox, and then from the drop-down menu, select Reference Document URL, and then you have to click the URL button here, and then hit OK. And now it knows to use that field to be able to pull up hyperlinks for you. And to be able to access that, since our area of interest polygon covers the whole map, we can click anywhere on it, but we need the right tool. So there's a hyperlink tool. It's a little lightning bolt next to the blue circle identify tool there. You click the hyperlink tool, and now when you scroll over the map, it shows you the URL that it's going to go to. If you click on that, it hopefully will do it. It may not. It might. It's working on it. And it opens up a browser that has that goes to that link. And essentially that link was set up and it has the getting started instructions on how you can can get started with the geodatabase. And I just wanted to really show you how that hyperlink field works. So like I said, there's lots of different feature classes that have this URL field in it. So you can link to whatever. You can have it be a path on your computer network at work, like C:, blah, 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 could go in there. Or you could put an internet address in there that links to something. And that way you can link all kinds of information, like if you have construction documents or some kind of, actual paper documents, PDFs, whatever you got, whatever you want to link in to these particular things in the geodatabase, you can do that. I think that's a pretty neat function. So I'm going to close up the web browser that tried to open there, and that's pretty much all I wanted to show you with that. Okay, so now we've got our photo in there, we've got a bounding box for our data, and it's time to start drawing in some features on our map. So I'm going to zoom in and look at the area we're going to work with. Basically you'll see these two bridges on here. Basically between these two bridges is the area we're going to work with. So if you grab the zoom in tool, and then you click and drag a rectangle approximately around the area you want to work with, we'll zoom in and take a look in more detail at what we have. So essentially what we're going to do is we have two different sections of the arboretum here. This one between the bridges on the south side of the waterway here is one section. And we're going to want to delineate the stuff that we have in there. So we can see these sidewalks that go through this area. We're going to want to make some polygons for that. We've got some different plants in here. We might want to put some plants in. We've got a barrier here that kind of goes along the road that is a wall of sorts. We have some planting beds that are clearly defined here by the sidewalks and the pavement, so we're going to want to draw those in. We could even draw in, if we want to draw in the waterway here, we can draw that in. And there's a number of different things that we could get just by looking off the aerial photo. So we can actually create quite a bit for our boundary or for our garden from there. And the way that I usually like to try to start is by working with creating some boundaries really for the area we're going to work with. So we can start with by delineating the section that we have for our garden. So first, let's load in the sections feature class from the geodatabase. So to do that, we hit the Add Data button, and this is always the way that we're going to add data in. And if it doesn't go right to the geodatabase that we're working in, select that, go to Default Geodatabase button, which is the gray cylinder with the yellow house. Go into the base map, feature data set, and then scroll over, these are all in alphabetical order, to section. We're going to load section in. And now section doesn't have anything in it, so we don't actually see anything get loaded in, but we're going to want to delineate these sections on here. So to be able to edit or create new data, we have to put ArcMap into editor mode. We have to turn on editing, essentially. And to do that, we select the editor toolbar button here, which is up by the scale box. It's got a few black dots and a yellow pencil. You guys find that? Click on that and it opens up a new toolbar for us to work with. And now you can let these toolbars float around or you can dock them. I'm going to dock mine in the bottom part of the screen here, and you can see that once I get down to the bottom, it kind of changes appearance, and you can slide it back and forth and it'll fit in. The first thing, did you add section? Did you get section in there? Okay. So to get section, you hit the Add Data button. And then click the Home Default Geodatabase button, which is the cylinder with the yellow house. You got that? Oh, it goes to the wrong place. Okay, so if it doesn't happen, you're going to want to hit the drop down here, hit folder under folder connections. You should see your TGIS. And now you should see a UC Davis Arboretum. Double click on that. Double click on base map. Scroll over in alphabetical order to S. And then select section and hit add. All right, how we doing? Guys getting hungry yet? Lunchtime's coming. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is actually edit this section data, and we're going to draw in some section boundaries for these collections here. So we added the editor toolbar. If you didn't do that, it's the little black dots with the yellow pencil. Click on that, and then I added that, and I docked that editor toolbar down at the bottom by dragging it down to the bottom until it kind of snapped into place. Okay, so now we're going to start editing. But the first thing I want to do here is to make our editing workflow a little bit better, I'm going to go to the options on the editor toolbar. And this gives you all kinds of different options related to editing. What I want to do, though, is go to the Attributes tab. I'm going to click this Display the Attributes dialog before storing new features. And that means every time I draw something, it's going to bring up a little box where I can type all the data in the table that's going to be stored with that feature. So just click on that box and hit OK.
Where's editing options?
The editor toolbar, you hit the word editor and then hit options.
What tab did you go under on editing options?
It's the Attributes tab, which is on the far right. And then you want to click the Display Attributes dialog before storing new features. All right, everybody caught up to that? Okay. So like I said, that's basically going to bring up, every time we draw something out on the map, it's going to bring up a window so that we remember to enter information about it, which is good because otherwise you could go on drawing stuff and not have any information about it, no name, no definition of what it is. So it's a good thing to keep us keep our data quality up. Okay. So now we're going to grab some editing tools, or actually we're going to start editing first. So where it's back on the editor toolbar, hit the word editor. And then at the top, hit Start Editing. And that's going to open up this Create Features palette over here on the right side. That gives us different options for things that we can draw. Now you can see that this thing is kind of cut off my map a little bit, so I'm going to use the hand or the pan tool here. Grab that, and then you can kind of click and drag your map over so that the area that we want between the two bridges shows up clearly on this map for us. Okay, so now we're in editing mode, so we can start drawing some features on the map. So to do that, from the Create Features palette, we select what we want to draw in. And I want to draw a section boundary, so I'm just going to click on Section. And now it's all ready for us to start drawing on the map. So now you can see our cursor is changed to a crosshair, which kind of tells us where our points are going to go. And now the first section I want to draw in is basically just this whole area right here. We have two sections. I'm going to make the sections split in the middle of the waterway so that they're continuous to one another. It's a good idea with sections when you're dividing up your garden into different sections is to make them all continuous to one another so that there's no gaps in between them, so you don't have no man's land, so to speak. Okay, so to start doing that, we're basically going to trace the boundary of the soil and the pavement here. And then when we get to the other side and we got all the way around, we're going to go right down the middle of the waterway. So I'm going to start at a really clear point here, which is where the water and the soil and the pavement all kind of intersect. Oh, yeah, sure. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and I'm going to just click here. And if you were going to draw this for your own garden, you'd probably zoom in a lot more, but for the sake of time and simplicity on this exercise, we're just going to do it at a really rough level here. So I'm going to click, and it's going to put a point on the map, and you can see as you move, it's put a vertex on the map, and then we have a line attached to it. And we can just basically click along and draw in these points to define this area for us. So we click, then move along, and it's good to kind of keep a somewhat regular interval. If you get to a curve, maybe you want to put the points a little bit closer together, but you can just continue to click, and it will start drawing in this shape for you. And now where it goes under the tree here, you can't really see very well the border between the soil and the street, but you know it's a straight line, so you can go all the way across it until you can see what's going on again. And now remember that we want to make the dividing line for the section that's on the south side of the water and the north side of the water go right down the middle of the waterway. So I'm going to put a point kind of in the middle of the waterway here, and then I'm going to somewhat estimate where the middle of that is. And you can see that somewhat this polygon is kind of obscuring the way this our vision here to be able to see what's going on. And if you wanted to, you could go over to the side, or actually go over to the table of contents here, excuse me, click on section and make it hollow. I'm going to change the outline color to be red on that and maybe make it a little bit thicker, and then I hit OK. And then I guess it won't do it on this one, but the next time we draw one, it'll be hollow so that it won't block our way. Okay, so I'm just continuing along, and now I've gotten back to the point where I want to stop. So I want to close this polygon, I want to finish it off, and the easiest way to do that is to just double click on the spot where you want the last vertex. And then, since we clicked that option, it brings up the attribute window. Now you can see if we move it out of the way that our polygon is complete, and we have a chance to enter attributes about it. Is everybody able to do that?
How did you get to that box?
This box only comes, did you double click to finish your polygon? If you double click, then it comes up. All right, we good? All right, so now it gives us an opportunity to enter some information here about this particular polygon. So all the feature classes in the data model have a field called ID. So whatever the feature class is called, it'll be blah, blah, blah ID. So, and that's a unique number, and it needs to be unique, that basically allows for the database to be able to connect things together. So it's really important that you kind of keep track of these, and this is probably the most pain in the butt part of managing this data, but it does make it really functional later. So a good way to do it is, because this is the first section we're drawing, you just type in the number 1. And you'll see right above here it says Object ID, and it has the number 1 on here. Object ID is always going to be a unique number, just like section ID needs to be. So if you just put the same number that you see in the Object ID field in the whatever section ID field, you'll be just fine. So just do that. And now for the name, we're going to type in a descriptive name that we can identify this area by. And now this is our South Arakaceae section, so I'm going to type that in. And if you wanted to type any comments about this particular thing, maybe it's something that you need to do to the data. If you want to maybe zoom in at a later date to make more accurate, it could say, you could type that in there, zoom in later to make more accurate, whatever you want to type. Or if it's a description of what's inside that, you can use this field for whatever you'd like. And that's all the information we're going to store about this. So we just go ahead and hit OK. And now it closes, and you can see that now it's made our polygon for us, and because I changed the way it looked, it's hollow on there, and the blue line designates that it's selected. What's that? Oh, to change the way it looks on the table of contents, under section, you can click on the symbol, the rectangle, and then it brings up the symbol selector, and you can change the outline width and the color. I selected hollow, and then change the color to red, just so that we don't confuse it with our area of interest. And that should do it. And now it's got this selected for us. If we want to see the information that we typed in, we can hit on the editor toolbar on the far right. There's the attributes button, and it looks like kind of like a table. I guess it's third from the left. Click on that button. It brings up the attributes tab over here on the side, and it shows us the information that we just typed in that attributes window. And it also has this little kind of layer tree at the top here. And it shows us that section has one feature in it. It's the South Area KCE section. We click the plus next to South Area KCE. It shows us all these other feature classes from the data model that could be connected to this feature class or have relationships to it. So we might have some exhibits we want to delineate in there. If you have an exhibit on, manzanitas and you want to delineate that, you could draw that in there. We have a feature class for planted hardscape. This would be things that are in containers that are maybe on concrete. Or if you have plants that are growing on a trellis, you could use that planted hardscape to be able to delineate those. We have a feature class for planting areas, which we're going to work on next, which would basically be these areas that are kind of delineated by the pavement in there. Then we have another feature class for structures, which would be for any buildings or other similar things that we'd want to draw in there. And those are all related so that when you click on this South Area KCE section, you could, once we draw these in, you can find out all the things that are inside of it. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to work on is, let's go with planting areas. So to be able to work on planting areas, really simply, you can click on planting area here on the side, right-click on it, and click Add to Map, and it'll just add that straight from the database right into the map for us, and it brings that up on the side. And right away you can see it's set up some symbology for the different subtypes that we have of planting areas. So we have a soil planting area, we can have a turf planting area, we can have a wild planting area or other. And again, if you have any other types that you'd like to add to that list, you can do that. But right now we're going to delineate some soil planting areas, which are these areas here that are kind of marked off by the pavement and the water. So to do that, we need to go back to the Create Features tab on the side here. So at the very bottom right, you'll see Create Features. You can click on that again. And you'll notice that it only has area of interest and section as types of features. So we need to add planting area to this list because we added it later. So to do that, you right-click on planting area in the table of contents. Go down to Edit Features. And then go to Organize Feature Templates. And then you just click on planting area if it's not selected already. And then click the New Template button. And then select the default options here and just hit Finish. And now you'll see it's going to bring up these all our little subtypes for us. And hit Close. And now on the side here we can start creating features for that planting area. Is everybody able to do that? So on the Attributes tab here at the right, you have that open. At the very top, you have this little tree. Do you see planting area? Right-click on it, and it should say Add to Map. Yep. Okay, so now we can create some planting areas. So to do that, we're going to create soil ones, so we're going to click on soil. And now one thing that we want to do is that it would be nice to get all of our data nicely nested inside of one another so that our planting areas nest neatly inside of our section boundaries, meaning that the ones that come up to the edge of the section, they don't have gaps between the section boundary and the planting area. So the ArcGIS has this neat feature where it snaps to things, basically. And if you move your cursor over the edge of the planting area, you can see that it's kind of like you'll move it along and then it'll kind of snap into place, and it'll tell you what it's snapping to. So right now it says, on my map, it says that it's snapping to the sections layer, and it's snapping to a vertex in that layer. Do you have it added to the table of contents? So you go right-click on planting area. You don't have planting area? Okay, we'll do that. Okay, so to add planting area, do you have the attributes window or palette over here, the lower right? Can you click on attributes? You can also click on the attributes button on the editor toolbar, which is third from the right. So if you don't have it in there yet, at the top of the attributes window, there should be section. and then south area KCE and planting area. Right click on that, and I can't do it because I've already added it, but it should say add to map right there. So everybody got that far? Okay. All right, so once you have planting area in there, to be able to create features from it, Mia, do you still need that info? Okay. On planting area in the table of contents, right-click on the title, planting area, go to Edit Features, Organize Feature Templates, and then select Planting Area and hit New Template. And then from whatever comes up, you just hit, I think you can just hit Finish on this window. And then you should see these 4 different types here. Got that?
Yep.
And then hit Close. And now you'll see on the side, the planting area has been added in. And now, just like any other program, there's a number of different ways that you can do things, and this is just one particular way of adding a new feature class to the map. I'll do a different one next time so you can see how that works. Okay, so back to where we were here. We're going to create a soil planting area. So click on Soil. And as I mentioned, we want to make those planting areas snap or be right up next to and with no gaps to the boundary of the section that we drew. So the easiest way to do that is to just click in the same spot, so it essentially uses the same vertices to make that happen. So if you move your pointer into the middle of the sections feature class, you have your crosshairs. If you hit the V button on your keyboard, it should. Actually, let's see. Maybe I have to clear selection here. I'm going to make that work, do select, selection menu, clear selected features. And then click back on soil. And now you should see the red outline. Does everybody have that? Or if they've changed it? The outline should be red versus blue. I see. Okay, I know what it is. So if you click on soil, and then on the editor toolbar, you want to select the edit tool, which is right next to the word editor. And once you've got that, you can put your cursor on the map over the polygon. If you hit V, you'll see now it's showing us all the locations of all the vertices. So basically, to start this, we want to draw in this planting area here that is on the lower right part. So we're going to want to just move our pointer. So click on soil one more time. Move our pointer to about the point where it looks like the sidewalk intersects the section boundary. And you should see it gives you section : edge. You guys get that? It could also say section : vertex. But basically, as long as it says section and it's snapping along to that, you can click. And now it starts drawing that polygon in. And now if you want to see the vertices that we drew before, you can click the V button and it'll show you those, and you can get right over it and click on it. And you can hold down the V button, and sometimes it'll show the vertices all the time, sometimes it'll go away and you have to take your finger off, but basically using the V button here and there, it'll show you the vertices, and you can just snap to those and click, and then it just draws congruent to the section boundary. Oops, I actually went too far. I got carried away here. So if you've gone too far, like I just did, and you need to back up, you can do one of two things. Or one of three things. You can hit the undo button on this little floating feature construction toolbar. You can hit edit menu, undo, add vertex. Or I think you can also press Control Z a few times, and it will go back to where you need to be. Is that working for everybody? Okay, so now what I really want to do with this planting area is I want to go along the edge of this sidewalk now. So I'm just going to click to where it looks like it is. And again, the polygon color is kind of obscuring my view a little bit, but I'm just going to make it the best I can right now. And we can go back and fix it if we need to. So when you get to the point where you're ready to finish the polygon off, again, you're going to double click, and then it brings up the attribute window. How's everybody doing? Did you double click to close your polygon? Okay, it's an option. So you go to the, it's an option you need to turn on. Go to the editor, where it says editor on the editor toolbar. I can't do it right now because I have it up, but then go to options. And then there's an attributes tab on the far right. And then click the box. It says something, yeah, that's the one, yeah. And then every time it'll come up. If it doesn't, if you want it to come up right now, you can just click on the attributes button, which is third from the right on the editor toolbar, and it'll give you the same exact, similar screen to enter the same information, really. Okay, so everybody at this point, their polygon is finished, and it brought up the screen to enter attributes. Okay, so now we're going to enter some information about this particular planting area. So again, it's got an ID field right at the top, and the easiest thing to do is to just put in the same number that's in the object ID field. So put in 1, and then we have a type, and because we selected that ahead of time, it's already filled in as soil. And then we can put in a name for it. A lot of times your garden staff or your horticultural staff will have names for beds that they use, and that's always a good idea to put in. In this particular example, I'm just going to put in southeastern, excuse me, southeastern bed or planting area or whatever you want to put in. I'm going to put in Southern Era KCE. And you can type in whatever makes you happy. And then you'll see that it's got a field here for section ID. And now what this is doing is it's asking us basically what's the ID number of the section polygon that it's inside of. And this, by typing in this ID here, it will link these things together. So we just created that section polygon before and we gave it an ID at 1. So we know that it's in there, so we're going to put in the number 1. And you may need to go and check the attributes on your section to find that out. If you do need to do that, you can close this attribute window, unfortunately, and use the identify tool to find out what's in there. But that's basically what we want to put is the number 1. If there's any comments you want to fill in about that, you can put that in there. And I know that I didn't draw this very accurately, so I'm going to put zoom in for better accuracy, just like I did before.
Can you drag those change the shape? How you would adjust, or would you redraw?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we can drag those, and we can do that really quick. I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So now I've got my attributes filled in. I hit OK, and now it's drawn our polygon. And we can. I know that I didn't do a very good job, so I'm going to grab the zoom in tool from the toolbar, and I'm going to zoom in to this polygon here. Oh yeah, and I can see that my line is not quite up against the sidewalk because it's in the way. So the first thing I want to do is make this thing clear so it's not obscuring my view. So I'm going to make it actually, I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to make it a beige color here, and then hit OK, and then I'm going to make it transparent so that I can see through it. So to do that, you can double click on planting area, and on the display tab, there's a little transparency box here. I'm going to just type in 50%, and it'll be 50% transparent. And now I can see through it, which makes it a little easier to deal with. Okay, so now I want to move a couple of these points to make it more accurate. I'm going to grab the Edit Feature tool in the Editor toolbar. It's right next to Edit, Editor. Double click on the polygon, and now it shows us all our vertices. And then you can just grab these vertices, wait till the pointer changes to have 4 different points on it, and click and drag those until they're in the right spot. And you'll notice that they may be a little bit sticky, like they don't want to move. And if you want to adjust that so that they do move a little bit better, that's an option. You go to Editor, go to Options, and I think it's under General. Let's see. I might look sticky move tolerance. Oh, it's 0 actually. As low as it gets. I'm not going to deal with that for now, but essentially you can move these points to where you need them. If you need to zoom in some more, you can do that too. Yeah, the snapping's a bit of a pain right now. And then when you're done with it again, just double click anywhere outside of it and it'll close that polygon back up. And now if I want to zoom back to the to the view that I had previously, you can click on the blue back arrow on the toolbar and then it goes back to our previous view. All right, how's everybody doing with that? All right, I think what we'll do now is we're gonna draw in the rest of these planting areas, but let's take a lunch break and rejuvenate, and we'll come back and we'll draw in the rest of these polygons after lunch. How's that sound? All right, go. Okay, so before we go to lunch, this is uber important. So ArcMap could crash secretly while we're not here, so we want to save our work. So to do that, go to the Editor toolbar, click the word Editor there, and click Stop Editing. And it asks you, do you want to save your edits? And yes, we do. And then also, we want to save our map document. So basically, saving your edits saves the way the data looks, the way the data is stored in the database, the geodatabase. But it won't save the way that our map looks. So it won't save the way that we're zoomed in unless we actually, in the layers that we have loaded, unless we save our map document. So you do File, Save As. And then the best place to save this is with our data. So we're going to save it, hit the computer icon, go to the T drive, go to our GIS for Public Gardens Workshop data, and then you can, in the file name box, name this whatever you'd like. I'm going to call this the Eric Casey section, because that's where we're working. And then I'll hit save. And it should do it. Once it's done, you should see that new name reflected in the upper left. And that's it. So we can leave this open. Let's actually close ArcMap so we can learn how to open a map document afterwards. And then we will continue on with that after lunch.